Okay, I'm going to get started this morning by welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to everyone who's joining us online as well. Today is actually what's called our Pali Canon and English study group, which I'll explain to you guys what that is a bit later. But what we do here is I share teachings to be able to help students to understand the path to enlightenment as taught by the Buddha. The Buddha figured out how to get to this enlightened mental state where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you will no longer experience any discontent feelings, where your mind has eliminated all the causes and conditions that are producing things like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others can be eliminated from the mind through training of the mind. So we start each one of our classes with meditation, which is part of the training that the Buddha taught. But there's other things besides meditation that you would need to learn in order to move the mind to enlightenment. So that's why after our meditation, I'm going to introduce you to the Pali Canon and English study group, because this is actually the first day of the restart of this program. It's actually a 1.5-year program that over the course of a 1.5 years, slowly but surely on Saturdays, I help students to be able to understand the original words of the Buddha on the path to enlightenment. And then we'll actually do a little bit of that by the end of our class today. So welcome to all of you guys here at the temple, and welcome to everyone online who's joining as well. If you'd like to join for the meditation, the way that we start this is with some chanting to ease us into the meditation. And the chants are on the laminated sheet on the cabinet over there. You're welcome to help yourself if you'd like to chant along during the meditation, because it's actually going to help you to ease your mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. During the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to be able to help his students commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. And this is how they committed the teachings to memory. So you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer, or anything like that. This is just a way nowadays to help ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. But during the lifetime of the Buddha, it was used as a learning tool or as a learning device. For those of you guys that are online, you can actually get access to this by going to our website of buddhadailywisdom.com. You can click on free books, and then you can scroll down towards the bottom and you'll see the daily chanting sheet there. If you read these chants, at least the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants himself. They were probably created by his students, either during his life or after his death. Because if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, and frustration and all these other feelings, and this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, they were just helping you out of the kindness of their heart, you'd probably have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. So that's where I think these actually came from his students, either during his life or after his death. So if you'd like to chant along, I'm going to be doing that on the way into meditation, and it'll help you get more benefit out of the meditation itself. Once we're in the meditation, I'm going to be providing you some guidance, where I'm essentially going to be teaching you and instructing you how to meditate while we're actually meditating together. But then there's going to be a period of time of quietness where we're just all meditating. Everyone here at the temple and anyone joining online will just all be meditating at the same time. Now, during this time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. You might hear a car go by, a dog barking, a bird chirping. Someone here might cough or sneeze. If you're in meditation with a craving for permanent silence, when you hear a sound, you will cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated. This is the reason why you can eliminate your discontent feelings, because it's the mind itself that is causing them. Oftentimes people think that it's the outside world that is causing them to be angry and frustrated, but you can see through the teachings of the Buddha in a way that you can independently verify is that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. This is why you can actually eliminate them. So if you're in meditation, understanding the world is impermanent and you're not going to be able to be in an environment where it's permanently quiet, it's not possible, that when you hear a sound, you'll know that that sound's going to arise, change, and fade away. And you can rest at peace and joy in your meditation, even when you hear a sound. But if you have a craving for permanent silence, when you hear a sound, your mind's not getting what it wants and what it's expecting and what it's longing, yearning for. So therefore, you can cause your mind to be annoyed. So during that period of time of quietness, I'm sure there's going to be occasional sounds, and you can just understand that's normal. That's the way the world works. Then we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting, and that's where I'm going to introduce you to the Pali Canon and English study group, since today's our first day, I'll kind of give you guys an understanding of what this program is all about. And then we're going to actually do the Pali Canon English study group together, where I'll kind of walk you guys through how we actually do that. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And as part of your journey to enlightenment, you would learn these different positions at different times, because it's kind of like having a tool belt, and you would use these different tools at different times to be able to help you in your journey to enlightenment. But oftentimes people are learning in the seated position as they're getting started. So I'll introduce you guys to the seated position, and then in our various courses and retreats, you can learn these other positions. If you're on the floor in a chair, you might be on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair, you can sit however you like. There's not just one way to actually sit, because that would be permanence, and we live in an impermanent world. Everybody's body is different. You're going to find different things to be comfortable. What I'm going to share with you are just suggestions or recommendations for you to consider, but you can find whatever's comfortable for you, whether it's something that I share or something you figure out on your own, because what's important is that the body's comfortable, not painful, but not luxurious, but comfortable. That way you can actually train the mind. So if you're on the floor, you might consider having some cushions under your rear. This will kind of help soften your seat a bit. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you might just choose to do that lightly, where that'll allow the circulation to flow in the body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, again, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it, but it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. It's not actually possible. So some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Maybe you like your palms up, or just rest your hands comfortably in your lap. You can choose for yourself how you like to put your hands and arms, whatever's comfortable. And then the same thing is true for anybody who's in a chair or a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can also sit however you like. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting here in a chair with my legs crossed, so this is an option too. And then you could put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of your upper body, you'd like this to be erect, with the sternum up and the shoulders back. This will keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, so that you can actively train the mind. This is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities in the mind, and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you'd like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you're real rigid with the upper body, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle, with the sternum up and the shoulders back, because not only will it keep the mind attentive and alert, but it'll also make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to do the chanting on the way in. You guys are welcome to join in with the chanting, and then I'll come back in with the guidance afterwards. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Bhutang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso emahakawa arahang sammasammuto vicacaranang sammuno sakatoro kawitu anutero purisa Dhamma sati satatawa manusranang Poto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled. Just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out.
Recording in progress.
Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหะเกวาพุทธังมหาเกวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเกวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิ สุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิจาจารนังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสรังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to everyone. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Good morning. Welcome to everyone online who's joining as well. This individual that we refer to as the Buddha, he started his life out as Siddhartha Gautama. He was the son of a king. He was the firstborn son and destined to become the king. He was a prince. And over the course of his life, he actually had these observations where he looked at the world as being very miserable and having full of grief and sorrow and despair. When he went out into the kingdom, he saw all of this misery. And his life wasn't like that. His life had a lot of luxury, and it motivated him to go on this journey to enlightenment and figure out how to get to this enlightened mental state, figuring out how and why people experience these difficulties and struggles in life, and figuring out how to move past that. He was born in 563 BCE, and he died in 483 BCE. He lived for 80 years. And by the time he got to the age of 35, he had figured out how to get to enlightenment. What enlightenment is a mental state where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you will no longer experience any discontent feelings. Someone who's trained their mind to get to the enlightened mental state will no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. This is all eliminated from the mind through training of the mind. And this individual that we refer to as the Buddha figured out how to do this by himself. He figured out these individual pollutions that are in the mind, and he figured out the tools and techniques of how to eliminate those out of the mind. And when he figured out how to do it for himself, he knew that if he taught this to other people, that they would be able to do it for themselves as well. But they're going to need guidance and help. So that's why he chose to teach for 45 years, from the age of 35 to 80. And during his lifetime, countless people get to enlightenment. And not only do that happened during his lifetime, but after he died, he preserved his teachings in such a way that countless more people were able to get to enlightenment after his death. These are the three criteria of what make a Buddha, is that they get to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. They dedicate the rest of their life to sharing their independently discovered teachings with countless people, and countless people will get to enlightenment during that person's lifetime. Then they preserve their teachings in such a way that countless more people will get to enlightenment after their death. So the people understood that they were getting to enlightenment because they didn't have those discontent feelings anymore. You know what it's like to be angry and sad and frustrated and all these other feelings. And when you go 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and your mind isn't experiencing that, you'll know that your mind has experienced enlightenment. It's through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that an individual experiences enlightenment. One of the biggest myths about the life story of the Buddha is people think that he sat under a tree, he meditated, and then instantly got to enlightenment. And this just isn't true. So not only would they be experiencing the elimination of discontent feelings, but their mind would be focused. They'd have concentration, clarity, and deep memory, because the mind's performing optimally when you get rid of those pollutions. You'll notice that your personal and professional relationships are really blossoming, that they're at ease, that you don't have this bitterness and harshness and hostility in your mind anymore. So in your relationships, in your day-to-day life, you'll notice that they're really blossoming, that they're at ease. Right now, you probably have a certain number of relationships that you find to be quite difficult. Maybe with your parents or your siblings, maybe your life partner, your children. These can oftentimes be very challenging relationships because of what's going on in one's own mind. But you can transform all of that and get to the point where all your relationships are harmonious. You just need the wisdom of how to do that. And that's what a Buddha would help you to be able to do. And that's what his teachings are able to help you do, is to be able to get to this enlightened mental state, getting to the point where you don't even experience a bad mood any longer. It's physically impossible for an enlightened being to even experience a bad mood. So as he taught for 45 years, everything that he taught was oral. He just spoke and people remembered his teachings, and they used that chanting that we were doing in order to commit it to their memories, because the ability to write things down didn't exist in that region of the world during his lifetime. He was born in what we refer to as Nepal, and he grew up and he taught in an area that we refer to as Northeast India. So that region of the world didn't have the ability to write things down. The technology to write things down existed in China at that time, but it didn't exist in that region of the world. So just like technology slowly kind of moves throughout the world these days, it's the same thing during that time frame. And you might not see something as writing something down as being technology, but 2,500 years ago, that was technology. So the language that the Buddha spoke didn't even have a script, because there was no need for a script, because there was no ability to write anything down. So everything he taught was oral. But by the time you get to enlightenment, the teachings that it took for you to get to enlightenment, you will never forget those teachings. You will have them committed to the memory. So that's why the Buddha had his teachings committed to his memory. And as students were actually learning and growing and developing on the path to enlightenment, they were also committing the teachings to their memory. So you will never forget what it takes for you to actually get to enlightenment. That wisdom will be deeply rooted in your mind. It's kind of like upgrading the operating system of your computer. You upgrade the operating system within your mind. So by the time the Buddha died, the technology to write things down did make its way to that region of the world, and they started documenting his teachings. We refer to this today as the Pali Canon. This is the largest, most complete collection that we have of the teachings of the Buddha. It's 45 volumes of books that are this thick. And an individual who's interested in studying his original teachings would start studying the Pali Canon. It's in the Pali language. That's why it's called the Pali Canon. This language of Pali is no longer a spoken language today, but it's been translated into other languages. And we study this as part of this program in English, but it's also been translated into other languages too, like the Thai people have it in the Thai language and so forth. So you can actually approach these teachings through guidance from a teacher and through resources that a teacher provides to be able to help you gradually learn and train your mind in getting closer and closer to this enlightened mental state. But those 45 volumes of books are quite thick and quite extensive, and it would take a lot of effort to study all of those. And a lot of the Pali Canon is repetition, where you'll see like maybe 100 pages and it's the same thing being repeated over and over and over again with maybe just like one sentence or one paragraph changing. So what we have here is we have a book series of 13 books that's consolidated the Pali Canon into a more manageable and approachable set of teachings. And what I do throughout all of our programs is I help people to gradually understand the path to enlightenment through things like our group learning program, our courses and retreats, and also this program as well, the Pali Canon and English Study Group, because it's studying the original true teachings of the Buddha that are going to actually lead to your enlightenment. Nowadays, 2,500 years after his death, there's many misunderstandings in the world. If you're seeing rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer associated with the teachings of the Buddha, those aren't his actual teachings. Those are gross misunderstandings that people are having. And that's a lot of what you see in the world, is you'll see rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer associated with the teachings of the Buddha. But he never taught any of those kinds of things. He taught you to actually train your mind, to cultivate wisdom, to gradually move the mind closer and closer to this enlightened mental state. Because the whole reason why an individual experiences struggles and difficulties in their day-to-day life is that they just lack wisdom about the natural laws of existence. There's certain natural laws that are affecting you, whether you're aware of it or not. And if you don't understand these natural laws, you will tend to go through the world making unwise decisions, and it's going to produce unwholesome results for you. We refer to this as unwholesome karma. Now, you might have heard the word karma being used. That's the Sanskrit language. In the original teachings of the Buddha, which are in the Pali language, the word karma is being used. This is a natural law of cause and effect, or action and result, the results of your decisions. There's no punishments and rewards. It's not about anything mystical or magical. It's not about who's to blame or who's at fault. It's literally a sequence of events that whenever you make a decision, either wisely or unwisely, it's going to produce either wholesome karma or wholesome results, or it's going to produce unwholesome karma or unwholesome results. So what the Buddha is helping you to do when we talk about awakening to enlightenment is to gain wisdom about this natural law so that now you can navigate the world more peacefully. If you don't understand this natural law, you'll tend to go out into the world, make unwise decisions, you'll experience unwholesome results coming back to you, and then what an individual will typically say is this is good luck or bad luck, or this is destiny or fate, or they might say that it's God or some entity called the universe that is producing this unfortunate situation in your life. Or sometimes people blame what they experience on other people. And as long as you do this, you will continue to struggle and have difficulties in the world because there's no such thing as good luck or bad luck. It doesn't actually exist. There's no such thing as destiny or fate. That's like predetermination. That's like your life is predetermined for you. And this being of God and some entity called the universe isn't controlling what you experience on a day-to-day basis. And it's not other people that are causing you to experience certain things. It's your own decisions that are leading to any particular result that you experience in your day-to-day life. And this can actually be very empowering because when you come to understand that it's your own decisions that are leading to any result that you're experiencing in your day-to-day life, if there's anything that you don't particularly care for that's going on in your life, all you need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results. But if we blame what we experience on any of these other things, then we never cultivate the wisdom that we need in order to make improved decisions. So say, for example, I was walking down the beach and there's this wind that's blowing in my face. And say I'm walking down the beach and I'm kicking up a bunch of sand and this sand is blowing back in my face. Well, if I think that this is good luck or bad luck, or that this is destiny or fate, or that it's God or some entity called the universe that is causing this for me, or if I think that it's other people that are causing this, then I never cultivate the wisdom to stop kicking up sand. And as I walk down the beach, I'm just going to continue to kick up sand and continue to experience the same results of the sand blowing back in my face. But if I can see the truth about this, that it's my decisions that are leading to the sand coming back into my face, then all I need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and I'll experience different results. All I need to do is stop kicking up the sand, and I'll stop experiencing the sand blowing back in my face. So natural laws are affecting you, whether you're aware of it or not. Just like the natural law of gravity, that affected us when we were growing up and we lacked wisdom of this natural law, we experienced struggles and difficulties because we didn't understand the world that we lived in. We fell down, we hit our head, we bumped our elbows, we broke our toys, and we cried and cried and cried because we didn't understand the world that we lived in. But slowly but surely, we cultivated wisdom of this natural law of gravity, and now you might say that we're fully awake to this natural law because we now make wise decisions. We started tying our shoes a bit tighter. We stopped being so giddy and bouncing around like a kid when we were walking down the street. We started looking at the surface of the sidewalk, and now we experience improved results because we have wisdom about this natural law and we make improved decisions. We never believed in the natural law of gravity. We can see the truth for ourselves that this natural law exists. Nobody's believing that the natural law of gravity exists. We can actually see it with our own eyes. And the same thing is true about the teachings of the Buddha. There's no belief in his teachings. You're not believing a bunch of things and hoping something good happens when you die. You're learning, growing, and developing in this life to get to a peaceful and joyful mind and a peaceful and joyful life now. So there's certain natural laws that are affecting you, whether you're aware of it or not. And just like the natural law of gravity was affecting you and you were struggling and having difficulties, you cultivated wisdom about that, and now you experience improved results. That's why now you can probably climb a ladder, you can ride a bicycle, you can get on airplanes and fly all over the world because you understand the natural law of gravity and you no longer struggle with it. So that anger and sadness and frustration and all those feelings, it's the mind struggling and having difficulties in day-to-day life because you don't understand the world that you live in. So what the Buddha's doing is he's teaching you how to cultivate wisdom about the natural laws so that now as you learn those natural laws and you practice his teachings, you can actually see the truth for yourself that the condition of your mind in your life gradually improve. So there's no belief here. You're learning, investigating, and examining his teachings. You're reflecting on them to independently verify whether they're true or they're false. And then you're practicing his teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life. And this is where the real transformation is occurring as you're uprooting those pollutions out of the mind and experiencing more and more peace and more joy. So the various programs that I have here are all based on the original teachings of the Buddha. We don't do any rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayers. We don't do any kind of belief or anything like that. I encourage each student to never believe anything that I say, to never believe anything I write in books, to never believe things that other people say too. You need to be able to see the truth and cultivate the wisdom. So in most of the classes and courses and retreats, what I do is I teach for 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then I open up for questions and see what questions you have. And then I teach another 15, 20, 30 minutes and open up for questions. That's the way that most of our classes, courses, and retreats are structured. And you can learn here at the temple, or you can learn online because I live stream the classes all over the world. And then if you can't even attend the live streams, you can actually watch the recordings. They're available on Facebook and YouTube. You can actually access them that way, or you can come in through Zoom and attend the classes live. And everything here is available for you at no cost, whether it's the books, the classes, courses, retreats, personal guidance. I'm dedicated and committed to helping you to be able to experience this enlightened mental state so that you can experience the peace and the joy that is possible for you when you train your mind. So today is the very beginning of what we call the Pali Canon in English study group. Remember, the Pali Canon is those 45 volumes of books that have captured the original teachings of the Buddha. His students, shortly after his death, started documenting his teachings because they knew that there was going to be people who were interested in learning these to be able to get to that same mental state that they had experienced. Because by the time the Buddha died, there were countless people that had experienced this enlightened mental state through training their mind based in his teachings. So 500 of them got together and they started documenting his teachings because, again, by the time you get to enlightenment, you will not forget what it took for you to get to enlightenment. So all these other programs that I teach help you to lay down a foundation and create a framework for you to understand the teachings of the Buddha. And as a student has done that, then they might come into a program like this where there's the Pali Canon in English study group, where we study in depth his teachings and based in his own words. Now, if this is your first time here, which I know many of you guys it is, it's your first time here, no worries. You'll learn plenty today as part of our program, but just understand that there's other programs that students will typically start with as they get started on the path to enlightenment. In fact, tomorrow on Sunday at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. I'm going to be teaching here in this classroom where I'm going to be teaching the very first teaching of the Buddha. It's called the Four Noble Truths. I'm going to be sharing that with you guys and helping you to be able to understand the very beginning of the path to enlightenment as taught by the Buddha. So if you're just getting started on the path, you might decide to come tomorrow as well, where you can actually learn his very first teaching. Because in 4 simple statements, you can understand the problem that you're experiencing within the unenlightened mind, the cause of that problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward of how to completely fix it. And you can learn his teachings in a way that are independently verifiable. Again, there's no belief in his teachings. You'll be able to see for yourself that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And this is very empowering once again, because when you see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, then you can actually apply a real solution to actually fixing it. Because when you believe that it's other people that are causing you to experience anger and sadness and frustration and all these feelings, you'll tend to become unskillful, where you'll push people away out of your life. You might have pushed away friends or family members out of your life, thinking that that's going to solve the problem. But you can see that didn't solve your problem because you still get angry or sad or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. Or the second thing you might do is you might be bitter and harsh and hostile towards people through your intentions, speech, and actions. You might be firmly believing that anger and hostility is being caused by the other person, when in reality it's coming from your own mind. Or the third thing you might do is you might put your expectations on people and try to control people and pressure them into doing things your way. And as long as you're doing these kinds of things, you can't live harmoniously with all beings, because it's only a matter of time before you encounter somebody who's doing things differently than you, and you'll be interested in pushing them away, being bitter, harsh, and hostile to them, or putting their expectations on them. And there's probably people in your life that are doing this to you too, where they're pushing you away. They're being bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, and they're putting expectations on you and trying to pressure you to do things your way. And this is what the unenlightened mind does. But the Buddha taught this better way of life, to be able to understand this better way of functioning in the world. They're not rules and commandments. They're not beliefs. They're not rituals and ceremonies. It's training your mind to be able to experience more and more peace by eliminating this pollution out of the mind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you to this Pali Canon English study group. It'll only take me a few moments to help you to understand what this program is, because some of you guys might be starting for the very first time, especially here at the temple, or those of you online, or maybe watching the recording. And then I'm actually going to do this with you, where I'll show you how we study the original words of the Buddha. So this Pali Canon in English study group, it's a live, interactive, in-person and online classes where you can learn the path to enlightenment based on the words of the Buddha. You can learn here at Wat Tung Yu, coming live on Saturday mornings, or you can attend through Zoom, Facebook, or YouTube, because right now there's people that are joining us who are online, and you can attend that way too as you travel around the world. I teach on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. from here at the temple, and then at 9 p.m. I teach from home. There's a slight difference between these two classes. At 9 a.m. here at the temple, there's usually a lot of people who are brand new that don't, that maybe haven't studied the teachings before. So what we do is we do meditation together, and then I do a little bit of an intro, and then we actually study maybe 1 to 3 chapters of the particular material. But then on Saturday evenings at 9 p.m., I don't do meditation with those students, because they tend to be people who have been studying with me for longer, and we just jump right into studying. And we usually study about 10 chapters each individual session. So if you're somebody who's really interested in deep study of the Pali Canon, the Saturday evening at 9 p.m. class is probably a better course for you, or better time to actually take the class. And in that particular class, you'll find that we just study those 10 chapters, because most of those people are already having a meditation practice that is well developed. But I also have this program on Saturday mornings where we invite everybody to come in, we meditate together, and we study a few of the chapters from the words of the Buddha to help you guys to understand the path. So depending on where you are in the world, this might actually be Friday evening, right? If you're like in North America or Central America, South America, Saturday morning Thai time might be Friday evening your time. You'll need to be able to look at your time zone. Or this 9 p.m. might be Saturday morning for you, but this is based on the Thailand time zone. So we do meditation in the Saturday morning class, but we don't do that in the evening class at 9 p.m. because we just focus on studying the teachings of the Buddha. We have a Facebook group where I make posts so that students can get access to the teachings and they can ask me questions in the Facebook group as well. And then we have a video library in YouTube. We have podcasts, audiobooks, and even quizzes. And again, all of this is available at no cost for you. There's even ongoing support as well, because you can actually get help from me in 4 different ways. You can ask questions in these classes live. You can post in our Facebook group, and I'm the one who answers your questions there. You can send me private messages through Facebook, through WeChat or WhatsApp or any of these different messaging apps like Line and different things like that, or email even. You can send it that way. You can even schedule personal guidance where we'll actually meet one-on-one, either in person or online through Zoom. So those are the 4 ways that you can get help: is ask questions in class, post in our Facebook group, send a private message, or schedule personal guidance. Because as you're going through all these classes, courses, and retreats, it's one thing to learn in a class, but it's a whole nother thing to be able to apply it to your day-to-day life. Because you'll hear me talk about how to be loving and kind and warm and gentle in your relationships, because when you're putting that out, that's more and more that is what will come back to you. But when you're in conversations with your parents or your siblings or your boss or your coworkers, and they're being bitter and harsh and hostile in maybe certain situations, you might find it very difficult to be loving and kind. And you're going to need help to be able to apply the teachings of the Buddha to your specific situation. So that's why personal guidance is available for you guys, or you can ask questions in any of those 4 different ways. The reason why somebody would be interested in taking a program like this is to train the mind to attain enlightenment. That's the only reason why somebody would be interested in learning and practicing the teachings of the Buddha. If you're done with the broken relationships, if you're tired of ending relationships over and over and over again, if you're frustrated with the anger and sadness and difficulties and the grief and the challenges that you experience in your day-to-day life, where maybe you're having a lot of difficulties in your relationships, the path to enlightenment is what's going to help you to solve all of that. All those challenges that you're experiencing in your day-to-day life, you can overcome those by cultivating wisdom. So if you're interested in healing from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again, the path to enlightenment is what's going to help you with this. That oftentimes people perceive the hurt and the pain that they're experiencing as coming from the outside world, but it's actually coming from within your own mind. This is why you can actually solve it. You may have never heard anybody say these kinds of things to you before, that there's a path for you to be able to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. And this path is to heal inwardly. It's not to change the outside world. It's not to go around the world and change other people. It's to change your own mind. And by training your own mind, that is what will help you to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. And that's what the path to enlightenment is. It's a path of inner growth and inner development. It's to look inward and be reflective and do this inner work that's going to help you get to the peaceful and joyful mental state, just like the Buddha. Because the Buddha was a human being just like you and I, and just like he got to enlightenment, you can too. The only difference is that he did it without teachers and guides. You're going to need help. You're going to need teachers and guides. A Buddha can get to enlightenment on their own without teachers and guides, but everybody else is going to need teachers and guides to help them. So that's why I share my time and effort and energy to be able to help students to be able to understand this path. So attaining enlightenment is to get to that peaceful and joyful mental state, as I've been talking about, where you've eliminated all of these discontent feelings. You will no longer experience any of these by the time you get to enlightenment, because you've uprooted the causes and conditions that are producing them. You'll notice that your life will be very peaceful. You'll have certain challenges in life, but you'll be able to face that with wisdom. Where right now, if you don't have the wisdom of the natural laws, when you meet with a certain challenge, it can be very difficult for you. And you might really struggle to know what type of decision to make in any given situation, where the teachings of the Buddha are going to help you to be able to understand that. The reason why you'd be interested in this type of program is to improve your personal and professional relationships, because it's a lot more fun in life to have fulfilling and satisfying relationships. That's something that the unenlightened mind typically struggles with a lot, is relationships. And typically because of the unenlightened mind's ego, it will blame your struggles in your relationships on other people. You might think it's your mom and dad that are the problem, or your brothers and sisters, or your boss, or your coworkers. Surely those people are, I'm sure, having difficulties and struggles in life, but your difficulties and struggles aren't coming from them. It's actually coming from your own mind. And by you focusing on this training of your own mind, even though they're still having difficulties and struggles, you'll be able to get to peace and joy. And then as you cultivate that wisdom, if they're interested in that wisdom, you'll be able to help them to understand that wisdom of how you got to peace and joy. But by you getting to peace and joy first and cultivating that wisdom, then you'll actually be able to help others. Oftentimes people go around the world trying to fix everybody else and trying to get everybody else to do things a certain way. You'll never get to peace that way, because there's 8 billion people in the world, and you can't train 8 billion people to do things your way. It's just not possible. But if you train your own mind and you focus on your own mind, you can get to a point where all your personal, professional relationships are really blossoming and they're at ease, and you've improved those through training your own mind. Again, another reason why someone might take a program like this is to improve their focus, concentration, clarity, and their memory. Because when you have those pollutions in the mind that the Buddha discovered, you'll lack concentration and focus. You'll have difficulties with clarity of mind and memory. But by the time you purify your mind and you train your mind, those things have all been improved. And then the Buddha does teach the cycle of rebirth. And by the time you get out of the cycle of rebirth, you've gotten to enlightenment, and part of getting to enlightenment is to get out of that cycle of rebirth. And again, the teachings of the Buddha aren't based in belief. Even the cycle of rebirth is something that you can independently verify. Right now, you might be believing that you only have one life, but you don't have any evidence of that. The only thing that may be occurring is you don't currently have memories of your past lives. But when you start lifting this pollution out of your mind, there's the potential that you might start having memories of your past lives. And as that is occurring, that's one of the ways that you can independently verify the cycle of rebirth. In this book series, Volume 11, Chapter 105, when we get to that, there's 17 different criteria that are going to help you to independently verify the cycle of rebirth. So there's nothing here that is part of belief. Even the cycle of rebirth is something that you can independently verify. And these are the reasons why someone might take a program like this. This is the book series that we're exploring, and you can actually download it for free from our website. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can get access to it on Amazon. If you have access to Amazon, you can purchase it from there. These are 12 volumes, because all our other programs, we explore volume 1. If you haven't read volume 1 yet, I encourage you to get volume 1. This is titled Developing a Life Practice, the Path That Leads to Enlightenment. Oftentimes, students will spend an entire year just studying with this book and all of our other programs. There are some students that have told me they've read this book 8 to 12 different times, and every time they read it, they glean some new wisdom from it. It's kind of like watching a movie. If you watch a movie multiple times, you start seeing things that you didn't see previously, and this is where students will normally start. So if you haven't studied in this book yet, I encourage you to start with volume 1. But as students have learned with volume 1 and all of our other programs and developed a foundation, then they actually start exploring this, which is volumes 2 through 13. And this book series has the original words of the Buddha. And today, we're actually going to be starting with volume 2. We're going to be starting with chapter 1, volume 2, and I'll show you guys how we do our group learning program. This is titled Walking the Path with the Buddha, and I'll show you how we gradually learn in this Pali Canon and English study group. But these are all the books, and they're accessible from our website. So we're going to be exploring this over a 1.5 year period, just slowly but surely studying the words of the Buddha in each one of these Saturday classes. The way that we do this is, as I shared, is online or in person at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. And where you can't attend the classes live, they're recorded. Because in a 1.5 year time frame, it would be physically impossible for you to attend every single class. There's going to be a time where you're not able to come to class. And that's where you have the recordings to be able to help you. This is an independent study program where you're journeying to read and learn and develop on the path. And if you dedicate 10 to 20 minutes per day to read the books and ask questions in the class or listen to the podcasts and the videos, you'll be gradually able to learn. As I shared, this is an independent study program. There's independent verification of where you're not believing in the teachings. You're learning, examining, investigating the teachings. You are reflecting on them to independently verify them, and you're practicing them. As part of this, you would like to establish a daily meditation practice. And oftentimes by the time someone's moved in to this program, they already have a well-developed meditation practice of breathing mindfulness meditation and loving kindness meditation. And then it's important to set aside anything that someone has learned previously where they might think that they've actually been learning the teachings of the Buddha, because oftentimes people have been exposed to rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, prayer, thinking that those things are the teachings of the Buddha. And if you continue to think that those were the teachings of the Buddha, it's going to hinder you from actually learning the true teachings of the Buddha. So when you see his actual words and you see what did he teach and what he didn't teach, you'll be able to see that he never taught rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer. So it's important to set aside the things that you might have been exposed to before so that you can approach his actual teachings in a way that doesn't allow you to hold on to the things that you think are his teachings, but instead you can see for yourself what are his actual true teachings. So this is not casual reading. When you're learning the teachings of the Buddha through his own words, it's not casual reading. It's not like you sit back, you prop up your feet, you just kind of like let the words kind of blow over your mind and over your head. You got to really actively be involved in investigating the teachings. It's active reading. And as you're reading and you're learning in this program and you're reading on your own, if you come across a word that you don't understand, it's important that you investigate that. There were times where I was reading the teachings of the Buddha and I was looking at the words and I was like, I don't use that word that way. I don't know what they're saying here. And I had to go look at a dictionary. And I grew up speaking English, right? So as a native English speaker, there were certain words that I found that I wasn't actually using in the way that they're meant to be used. But the Buddha was using them in the way that they were meant to be used. So I needed to investigate language and cultivate wisdom about language. So if you find yourself reading these teachings and there's certain words that you don't understand, it's helpful to actually be able to investigate that and see what words really truly mean. Don't assume that the meaning of words are your current understanding, because sometimes you might assume that your current understanding of words is what they actually mean, when in reality, people use those words in different ways. Don't be concerned with completing the end of the book. Like sometimes people will just kind of plow through a book. Like if you're reading a novel or a storybook, you might get caught up in the story and someone might just kind of plow through it just to get to the end and see what the ending is. That's not the way you're interested in reading the teachings of the Buddha. As you're learning in the teachings of the Buddha with his original words, you are looking for comprehension. You're looking to be able to independently verify his teachings and be able to see the truth in the teachings. There were times where I would pick up the books to be able to read the original words of the Buddha, and I was maybe intending to read for 20 or 30 minutes. And within the first 5 minutes, I encountered a certain teaching and I was like, whoa, that's really deep. I don't know if I understand that or not. And I would have to step back. I'd have to put the book down, and I'd take 2, 3, 4, 5 days to go around the world and independently verify whether what I just read was true or not. So even though I was intending to read maybe 20 minutes or so, I actually had to put the book down and go off and independently verify what it is that I was reading in the book. So don't just read for completion to hurry up and get to the end. It's not about hurry up and getting to enlightenment. It's about taking your time and making sure that you're independently verifying each part of his teachings. And then as you need help, ask questions either before, during, or after classes. You're always welcome to ask questions and get help. So is there anybody here that has any questions, or anybody online about the program and what this program is all about? You can ask questions here at the temple by using the microphones in the middle of the room in the white bowl. Just get a microphone and press the gray button. You'll see the lights come on, and you can hold this up to your chin and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then you can keep these microphones with you because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share the microphone. And then if you're not using it, if you could turn it off, that'll help us to not get feedback through the speakers. And then for anybody who's online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and ask any questions that way. So are there any questions on what the program is? Yes, ma'am. If you could get the microphone there, that'd be great. You'll just need to press the gray button. You'll see the lights come on. It just takes about a second or so to engage.
It's open, yeah. So I would like to ask, as I understand for the program is independent and also personal commitment for this 1.5 year, right? 1 year's study, for deeper study for the Buddhas, this group. If someone, for example, if me join in from the first stage, but maybe because of something I lost or job 3 days or 3 weeks, then the continuity of the class, I'll need to catch up by myself, or how it will be.
Yeah, with this particular program and all of our other programs, you can join at any point that you like. It's kind of nice to start at the beginning of the program like this, but people can come in the middle or the end as well. People can join at any point because the program, it just keeps repeating over and over and over again. So it's great to join at the beginning like this, but you can also join at any other time too. You shouldn't feel like you're in a race or a competition with someone, or you need to hurry up and catch up with other people, because you're in your own personal journey. So wherever you start is where you start.
Okay, so as I understand, it's not really like a stage by stage. It's more like you keep practicing and keep to deeper understand and practicing per week. Is like that, right?
Yeah, each week that you attend these classes, you'll learn more and more, and you'll build up your practice. Yeah. If you start with like the Foundation and the Path to Enlightenment course, or some of our retreats, or the group learning program, those programs are structured in a way that kind of gradually help you to build up from beginning and build up your framework or your foundation. This program is more of kind of helping you in the same way. It does help you build up, but those other programs, they're going to build the framework and the structure for you, where this program is going to fill that in for you. So the filling in part can be done in any particular order, really, truly. Okay, I don't see any other questions anywhere. Let me check Facebook and YouTube. Okay, I don't see any questions here. Okay, so this is our website. You'll get access to all. Oh, yes, ma'am. You have a question? Yeah, if you could get a microphone, that'd be great.
Not sure. Yes. Do you have a PDF version of the books?
Yeah, that's what we have on our website. So if you go to this website, you'll see a link for free books. And when you click on it, you can download the PDF version. And then from there, if you also would like to get a printed version on Amazon, you can get it from Amazon. But we also have printed versions here that you can just reimburse us for them.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of switch gears and now show you guys what the Pali Canon and English Study Group actually is by kind of walking you guys through this. What I do is I invite students as part of each class, someone here at the temple or someone online, to be able to read this chapter. And this chapter, it's pretty short, right? It's like a page and just this little bit right here. These are the original words of the Buddha from his actual life. This is what his students documented shortly after his life. Someone will read this, and then after someone reads it, I will share some teachings on that for just like 5 minutes or so, just to help you guys understand how it's connected to other parts of his teachings and how to integrate it into your life. And then I will open up for questions, anything you guys would like to ask. So is there someone here or someone online who would like to volunteer to read this first chapter? Rachel? Okay. Yeah, sometimes people are a little bit shy. That's part of the unenlightened mind, right? Of being shy. But the way you can get past that is you can actually put the mind in the situation that it doesn't want to be in, and that's actually going to help you to get rid of that shyness.
Words which should be studied, learned, and investigated in the foremost assembly. And what is the assembly trained in investigation, not in conceited talk? Here, in this kind of assembly, when those discourses are being that are mere poetry composed by poets, beautiful and by outsiders, spoken by their disciples, the monks are not interested to listen to them, do not lend an ear to them, or apply their minds to understand them. They do not think those teachings should be studied and learned. But when those discourses spoken by the Tathagata are being recited that are deep, deep in meaning, world transcending, connected with emptiness, the monks are interested to listen to them, lend an ear to them, and apply their minds to understand them. They think those teachings should be studied and learned. And having learned those teachings, they question each other about them and investigate them thoroughly, asking, "How is this? What is the meaning of this?" They disclose to others what is obscure and clarify what is unclear, and dispel their confusion about numerous misunderstandings. This is called the assembly trained in investigation, not in conceited talk. And what is the assembly trained in conceited talk, not in investigation? Here, in this kind of assembly, when those discourses are being spoken by the Tathagata, are being recited that are deep, deep in meaning, world transcending, connected with emptiness, the monks are not interested to listen to them, do not lend an ear to them, or apply their minds to understand them. They do not think those teachings should be studied and learned. But when those discourses are being recited that are mere poetry, composed by poets, beautiful in words and phrases, created by outsiders, spoken by their disciples, they are interested to listen to them, lend an ear to them, and apply their minds to understand them. They think those teachings should be studied and learned. And having learned those teachings, they do not question each other about them or investigate them thoroughly, asking, "How is this? What is the meaning of this?" They do not disclose to others what is obscure and clarify what is unclear, or dispel their confusion about numerous misunderstandings. This is called the assembly trained in conceited talk, not in investigation. These monks are the two kinds of assemblies. Of these two kinds of assemblies, the assembly trained in investigation, not in conceited talk, is foremost.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So here we've got some teachings from the Buddha that is describing these two different types of communities. One type of community that's investigating and examining what's being taught, and another group or another community that's maybe just talking in ways that is conceited or arrogant or prideful. Maybe there's these beautiful words and phrases, but there's really nothing tangible that's being investigated and understood to be able to grow your wisdom and move your life forward. And the Buddha is saying that this community trained in investigation is the one that is really foremost, meaning the one that's going to be able to move their life forward and be able to really get tangible results in their day-to-day life. And that's the type of community that you would like to be part of, because right now there's maybe, 30, 40 people here online. We have a bunch of people, but there's thousands and thousands of people that are part of our community that are participating in the learning and growing and developing of the path to enlightenment. And what we do here is what the Buddha is teaching is we investigate the teachings. We don't have mere poetry, right? When you listen to someone speak, if it's just beautiful words and phrases and they're just kind of easy on the ears, maybe you think that you want to listen to those, but that's not what's going to move your life forward. Oftentimes you need to really confront some of the opinions and views that you have in your mind about the world and the way that you think about the world. And that's what's going to help you to cultivate wisdom and now navigate the world differently. If you look for some teacher who's just teaching you the things that you already think you know about the world and who's just agreeing with what you already know about the world or what you think you know about the world, then you're not actually cultivating wisdom and moving your life forward. In order to really get to this enlightened mental state, you're going to need to cultivate wisdom and learn things that you don't currently understand. So if you're in a classroom where you're learning things that you don't understand and you haven't heard those things before, that's a really good place for you. Rather than going to a classroom where it's things that you already think you know, that's not benefiting you. It's not helping you. But when you go to a place like this where you're investigating and examining teachings, there's going to be times where things are unclear for you and you don't really maybe understand what's being taught. And that's where the Buddha is saying that you investigate the teachings and you ask questions to be able to dispel the many numerous misunderstandings that might appear. Because that's the whole reason why the mind is in the unenlightened state, because there's certain misunderstanding and there's certain confusion. So if we go to a group where there's a community where it's just beautiful words and phrases and they just kind of blow over our head and they're just easy on the ears, you're not actually challenging your mind to learn and grow and develop. And that's what the Buddha is encouraging you to be able to do here, is to be able to learn in a community where it's trained in investigation, where they're examining the teachings. They're not believing in the teachings, they're examining and investigating the teachings. So do you guys have any questions on this particular chapter? No questions? Okay, so let's go to the next chapter. This is chapter 2. By the way, what you have in these books is you have the original words of the Buddha that we just read. You actually have the reference here. This takes you back to the original source teachings of the Pali Canon, where you can see where did this come from. Because that way you don't just believe that this is from the original words of the Buddha. You can go back to the source and be able to see that, yes, David put the original words of the Buddha in here. And then you've got words from me that are helping you understand how to integrate this into your life so that you can gain the benefit out of the teachings of the Buddha. So each one of these chapters, I've done that to be able to help you. And this is what you're reading on your own prior to coming to class, because I am only covering a few of the things that I've got in the book. If you actually are reading the book and coming to the class, then you're going to get the most benefit out of the classes. So would there be someone who would like to read this second one? It's quite short here. Yes, ma'am.
Ananda, I shall not treat you as the potter treats the raw dumb clay. Repeatedly restraining you, I shall speak to you, Ananda. Repeatedly guiding you of what to avoid, I shall speak to you, Ananda. The truly dedicated will stand. The test. Regard him as one who points out treasure, the wise one who seeing your faults guide you of what to avoid. Stay with this sort of teacher. For the one who stays with a teacher of this sort, things get better, not worse.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So here, this is titled One Who Points Out Treasure. And the Buddha is talking to an individual named Ananda. Ananda is one of his close students. This individual was studying with the Buddha from the very beginning of his teaching career all the way towards the end. He actually lived after the Buddha, and he got to enlightenment shortly after the Buddha died. So this individual is credited with having the deepest memory about the teachings of the Buddha. So when those 500 people got together and they started documenting the teachings, Ananda was the one who recited many of the Buddha's original teachings that they ultimately ended up documenting. So when you're studying in the Pali Canon, a lot of times you're going to see Ananda being referenced because Ananda is the one who remembered his teachings the most and who was with him the most time. So he's all actually referenced in the Pali Canon quite a bit. So this is the Buddha talking to Ananda, who we think was either his brother-in-law or maybe his cousin or something like this. He was a family member of the Buddha, and that's why he joined them so early in his teaching career and stayed with them for so long. He's saying, I shall not treat you as the potter treats the raw, damp clay, right? The raw, damp clay, a potter needs to constantly be molding it and shaping it. And the Buddha is saying, I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not going to be constantly molding you and shaping you, repeatedly restraining you. He's not going to be repeatedly restraining Ananda to stop him from doing the things that would be unwise. That's not the role of a teacher, to go around and restrain their students from doing unwise things. Instead, the Buddha says, I shall speak to you, Ananda. Right? He's going to speak to him, repeatedly guiding you of what to avoid. I shall speak to you, Ananda. Right? So he's going to teach this individual of what's wise or unwise, and then he's going to leave it to the student to make the decisions for himself. Instead of the teacher constantly restraining the student, instead he's like, I'm going to teach you, I'm going to give you the wisdom of what to avoid and what would be wise in the world, and then it's up to you to make your own decisions. I'm not going to control you and try to shape you, because oftentimes this is what people tend to do in families. Parents will sometimes try to control their children, or sometimes a boss might try to control their employees, but a really wise leader like the Buddha would give you guidance, wisdom, help you to understand what would be wise and unwise, and then step back and let you make the decisions for yourself, because that's where you're going to learn what is wise and unwise. And a teacher, all we can do is guide you and help you to understand the wisdom, but then it's up to each student to be able to make decisions for themselves. And the Buddha says the truly dedicated will stand the test. Right? Meaning you need to be dedicated to learning and growing and developing. Yes, a 1.5 year program. And in order to get to enlightenment, it took the Buddha 6 years to get to enlightenment. So it's going to take you some time. This isn't a 1 week thing or a 1 month thing to be able to get to enlightenment. It's going to take some dedication for you to be able to get to enlightenment. But this is the last struggle of all struggles. It's like climbing a mountain. And when you get to the top of the mountain, normally you need to walk back down. You get up to the top of the mountain, you see the beautiful view and the fresh air, and you need to walk back down. But the way that this works is when you're growing and developing as an individual, by the time you get to enlightenment, your mind is going to be in that mental state permanently. It's physically impossible for you to experience anger and sadness and frustration and these other feelings. So it's like climbing the mountain and getting to stay up there and enjoy the fresh air and the view for the rest of your life. So that's why the Buddha is saying the truly dedicated will stand the test, because it's a real test to be able to make your way to enlightenment. While sometimes we might think about getting to enlightenment as like floating on clouds, walking on rainbows, or things like this. Yeah, there's certain enjoyment as part of the path to enlightenment, but it can get very challenging at different times. It can be a real struggle as you're making your way to enlightenment. So that's why the truly dedicated are going to stand that test. And now the Buddha says, regard him as one who points out treasure, the wise one who, seeing your faults, guides you of what to avoid, right? So a wise teacher that has either gotten to enlightenment or close to enlightenment, they're going to be able to see your mind as a student, and they're going to be able to give you guidance of the things that would be wise or unwise that you're making decisions about. And then they would guide you in those things. But oftentimes it's very hard for the student's mind, because in the unenlightened state, a student is going to have ego. Ego is the arrogance and the pride, thinking that maybe you're above people or below people. So to hear a teacher share it with you, hey, what you said to your mom there was kind of unwise. I would suggest you speak in this way. Or that decision that you made over there, it's not the best decision. You should potentially think about making this type of decision. Hearing these kinds of things from your teacher, if you have an ego, can be very problematic to your ego. Your ego is not going to like to hear that. But if someone's pointing out treasure for you, if a teacher is helping you to understand your faults and what to avoid, the Buddha is saying, stay with this sort of teacher. Because the way that the teachings of the Buddha work is a teacher doesn't want anything from you. They don't expect anything from you. You're not paying a teacher a salary in order to teach you. They're just helping you out of the kindness of their heart. So if you have somebody in your life that is willing to guide you of the things that would be wise or unwise in the world, and this teacher doesn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, the Buddha is saying stay with this sort of teacher, because that's a person who's only interested in seeing wonderful things happen for you. They don't have any other vested interest. They're not getting money from you. They're not requiring you to do any particular thing. They're not expecting anything of you. They're just helping you to grow and develop as a better and better human being. And that's why the Buddha is saying stay with this sort of teacher, because this type of person is only interested in seeing you improve your life. They're not interested in it for their own purposes. They're just interested in seeing you be well. And that's why the Buddha says, for one who stays with this sort of teacher who's only interested in seeing you experience improvement in your life, things get better, not worse. Right? So that's what the Buddha is helping you to be able to see here, is look for a teacher who's interested and motivated to see things wonderful happen for you. That's not trying to control you and force you to do things a certain way, but instead is guiding you with wisdom, and then is willing to step back and let you make all your own decisions. That's how the Buddha guided his students, and that's how any wise teacher today would guide their students as well. So any questions on this teaching here, the Buddha guiding you of what type of teacher to look for in order to help you get to enlightenment? Yes.
So the question is, where do you find the balance between questioning what the teacher is telling you to avoid or suggest to do, and understanding like it's your ego talking to you?
Mm-hmm.
So
what you do is, when if your mind is currently unenlightened, and let's just say you're learning from a teacher who's enlightened, and even though I'm putting my hands like this, it's not that the teacher is above you and you're below them. It's just the amount of wisdom is different between someone who's either enlightened or close to it, and the amount of wisdom that a student has. So right away, if you're learning from someone who's enlightened or close to it, you know that they have more wisdom. So whatever they're teaching you, you already know that there's going to be certain things that you don't understand and that are different different than what you currently understand. So in that situation, you need to be able to understand that you're going to hear things from a teacher that are opposite of what you currently think about the world. And when you hear those things, rather than challenge them or think that you are right and the teacher is wrong, instead of that approach, instead ask the teacher clarifying questions. Because in order for a teacher to be able to guide you to enlightenment, they would have needed to independently verify all the teachings of the Buddha in order to be able to experience enlightenment. So if they've independently verified the teachings, one of the ways that you can ask questions is say, how can I independently verify that? How did you independently verify that? And that way they can teach you what did they do in order to get to that wisdom that they have, because if they've independently verified it, they would be able to teach you how to independently verify it too. So rather than come from a perspective of I'm right and they're wrong, and I now need to challenge them in order to convince them that I'm right and they're wrong, instead, it's more about how did you get to that understanding? Can you help me see what led you to that current understanding that you have? Because if a teacher is wise and they have a certain understanding that the student doesn't have, now all you're asking is, how did you get to that understanding? Can you help me to see how to get to that understanding? And that'll put you in a position where you're asking questions to learn, but even still in that situation, you're not believing what the teacher shares with you. You're just looking for guidance of how to independently verify whatever it is that they're teaching. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome.
Hi. Okay. So you mentioned that the teacher doesn't want anything from us, and do you think altruism is wanting for something?
What's altruism? What is that?
Altruistic.
Altruistic. What is that? I'm not familiar with that word.
Like helping other people make you happy.
Oh, okay. So if somebody has that, then they want something from you, right? That's not what a individual who's enlightened or close to enlightenment, that's not what they would be teaching for. So like the Buddha, when he taught, and anybody who's enlightened or close to it, they would just be teaching based in compassion, which is concern for the misfortune of others. But if somebody wants to be happy, they still have a craving, desire, attachment that they're teaching because they want to make other people happy. And now they get happy when other people are happy. That's not what I'm describing. An individual who's either enlightened or close to it, they wouldn't have that craving, desire, attachment. So when I come here, I'm not wanting to make you happy. I'm here in order to be able to share with you what it takes to get this enlightened mental state. And if there's people who are interested in that, I will share it with them. And if there's people who aren't interested in that, then I just won't share it with them. And that's why when people come and go and they leave, I'm completely fine with that. When I first started teaching here, people didn't know that I was actually teaching. And there would be times when I would come here and there would be nobody here because nobody knew that I was teaching. Now, every time I show up, there's always people here. But there was a period of time of maybe 6 months or so where there was occasional times that I would show up and nobody was here. Or maybe there was 1 or 2 or 3 people here. And I would just teach those 1 or 2 or 3 people. So anybody who's really, truly interested in helping you get to enlightenment, they wouldn't want anything from you. You wouldn't be the source of their happiness. Their happiness would be coming from internally. So what you're describing is somebody who still wants something from you, even if it's happiness. That's not what an enlightened being is experiencing. An enlightened being doesn't base their happiness on something external. They're inwardly happy. They're inwardly joyful. They're not sourcing their happiness from something external.
Thank you. And another question is, what is the proper anticipation for enlightenment?
What is the proper what?
What is the proper anticipation for enlightenment? Like for take you as an example, are you you can keep 100% away from bad mood, or you will still sometimes occur some discontent?
For me, at this point in my life, I don't experience any more discontentedness. It's been many years since I've experienced any discontentedness. I don't experience bad moods. All the things that I'm explaining to you, I would never tell you that I am enlightened, because as soon as somebody says I am enlightened, you know that they're not enlightened. But what I can do is I can answer questions like what you just said, which is, do you still experience discontentedness? It's been many years since I've experienced any discontentedness. And that's why I'm so motivated to be able to help people understand this path, because that wasn't always the case. all the way up until 2017, I was experiencing all kinds of discontentedness. I had all kinds of problems in my life. But then slowly but surely, I transformed my life to where I am today, and very pleased with everything that the Buddhist teachings have provided for me. And I have such deep appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha for having shared these teachings to be able to help me to experience what I'm experiencing today. And I have such compassion and loving kindness for the entire world that I'm interested in seeing as many people as possible experience this mental state that the Buddha taught, because I know with 100% certainty his teachings lead exactly where he said they do, and I would like to see these get into hands of as many people as possible. It's kind of like if you discovered the cure to cancer, what would you do with it? Would you bottle it and mass produce it and become a billionaire, trillionaire, selling, this product at a very high price? Or would you have such compassion and loving kindness for the world that you would give it away for free to everybody? And for me, I chose the latter, that I've found something that in my opinion is actually better than the cure to cancer, because cancer only actually affects a certain segment of the population, where discontentedness and this anger and sadness and frustration affects the entire population of the world. So I'm interested in seeing everybody and anybody get access to the teachings. So that's why I share them at no cost with as many people that are interested to learn them and practice them. And when I'm teaching you what is the enlightened mental state, even though you won't hear me say, yes, I am enlightened, you won't hear me ever say that. What I'm teaching you is based on the experiences that I've had in terms of what I would share with you that an enlightened being is experiencing, which is the elimination of those discontent feelings, the peace, the joy, the focus, concentration, clarity, the deep memory, the personal professional relationships blossoming, and no longer experiencing a bad mood. That by the time you train your mind in the way that the Buddha teaches, when you wake up in the morning, you're joyful. As you wake up in the morning, all day long, your mind's joyful. And then when you go to sleep at night, you're still joyful. That there's nothing that can shake up the mind. It's steady and stable and unshakable. And this is something that would be wonderful for every single person to be able to experience, because then the world's becoming a more loving, more kind, more gentle place to be. Okay, so maybe we'll study one more chapter and see which one we have here, chapter 3. Is there someone who would like to read chapter 3? Let's see. Someone like to read chapter 3? Rachel? Okay. Rachel's our default go-to reader. Before you start reading, though, there's a question that just came in on Zoom. Let me answer this one. This person is asking, actually, there's a couple questions here. Let me see what we've got here. We've got one from Chris. Teacher David, does the role of a parent involve more restraining than the role of a teacher? It depends on the age of the child. I know you have a young child, Chris. There is some restraining that you can do with a young child. Of course, if they're going to walk across the street and a truck's coming and is going to plow them over, you'd like to pull their hand and pull them back off the street. But there's certain things that you can kind of let the child make their own decisions mostly, and then that way they can see those results. And maybe we can talk about some of those on an individual basis, because you might have some individual decisions that your son is looking to make or you're involved in that we can talk about on a case-by-case basis. And then there's another person here that says, that's about their volume. Okay. Here's this person says, Master, how do we know the teacher is teaching us the correct way? The way you'll know that a teacher is teaching the proper way of the path to enlightenment is that when they're sharing the teachings, you'd be able to independently verify those teachings, that they're not based in belief. That's the way that you'll know, is that you'll be able to independently verify what it is that they're teaching and be able to come to a conclusion about that teaching on your own. And then when you implement those teachings on a day-to-day basis, you'll see the condition of your mind in your life gradually improving. Because in situations where you're once angry and sad and frustrated or other discontent feelings, and when you have those same situations and your mind is no longer experiencing those same discontent feelings, then you'll know that it's those teachings that are leading to the improvement improvement to the condition of your mind in your life. So that's how you'll know that it's the accurate and correct teachings. And then some more here. What will happen if teachers leading us on the wrong path of teachings may be due to its misunderstanding of the true nature of the Pali Canon? Again, if you are practicing in the way that I'm sharing, which is you don't believe the teachings that a teacher is sharing, including what is in these books, then you can't be misled. It's impossible for you to be misled, because if you don't believe anything and you're always looking to independently verify what's being taught, then you can't be misled. So that's why I started off sharing that with you. Let's see. Oh, you're welcome. Pleased to help you. All right. I think we're ready for you, Rachel. Go for it.
Rare that a Tathagata arises in the world. Monks, suppose that this great earth had become one mass of water, and a man would throw a ring with a single hole upon it. An easterly wind would drive it westward. A westerly wind would drive it eastward. A northerly wind would drive it southward. A southerly wind would drive it northward. There was a blind turtle which would come to the surface once every 100 years. What do you think, monks? Would that blind turtle come to the surface once every 100 years, insert its neck into that ring with a single hole? It would be rare, venerable sir, that the blind turtle coming to the surface once every 100 years would insert its neck into that ring with a single hole. So too, monks, it is rare that one obtains the human state. Rare that a Tathagata, an Arahant, a perfectly enlightened one, arises in the world. Rare that the teachings and discipline proclaimed by the Tathagata shines in the world. You have obtained the human state, monks. The Tathagata, an Arahant, a perfectly enlightened one, has arisen in the world. The teachings and discipline proclaimed by the Tathagata shine in the world. Therefore, monks, an effort should be made to understand. This is discontentedness. An effort should be made to understand. This is the cause of discontentedness. An effort should be made to understand. This is the elimination of discontentedness. An effort should be made to understand. This is the way leading to the elimination of discontentedness.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So first, let's just talk about what a Tathagata is. This is the way the Buddha would refer to himself. He very rarely referred to himself as the Buddha. He would more often refer to himself as the Tathagata. What this word means is the one who's discovered the truth, or the one who shares the truth. Because that's what a Buddha does, is they figure out the truth of the natural laws, and then when they've independently verified that and they see the condition of their mind has gotten to this enlightened mental state, they then share that truth with others. So an individual who is a Buddha is a Tathagata. They're the one who shares the truth about these natural laws. And then each individual student that is working towards enlightenment, they're looking to independently verify that truth so that then they can actually experience more and more of that peace and joy, getting to the enlightened mental state itself. So the Buddha explains this great little analogy here. He's using this simile. He's saying, suppose the earth has flooded and the entire earth is full of water, and there's a ring that is tossed onto the surface of the earth where this water, and now there's this wind that's blowing this ring all over the surface of the earth. And now there's this turtle that comes up for air once every 100 years. What's the likelihood that this turtle is going to insert its neck into that ring, right, that's been blowing all over the surface of the earth? Well, of course, it's very rare that that turtle is going to insert its neck into that hole. And the Buddha is saying it's also that same level of rarity that one obtains the human state, right? You're in this human existence. It's extremely rare for you to get to this human existence. And then it's also rare that a Tathagata, a Buddha, arises in the world, a perfectly enlightened one. And it's very rare that the teachings that a Tathagata teaches shines in the world, right? So the Buddha is reminding his students like, hey, look, these rarities have occurred during your lifetime where you've gotten to the human state, you lived during the lifetime of a Buddha, and the teachings are actually shining in the world. So he's saying essentially, don't let this go to waste. Don't allow this to actually produce complacency in the mind, or allow your mind to be lazy or lethargic in terms of your development on the path to enlightenment. Because what he says is, because these things have occurred, that you've reached the human state, there is a Buddha that exists during your lifetime, and the teachings are shining in the world, make an effort to understand this is discontentedness. This is the cause of discontentedness. This is the elimination of discontentedness. And this is the way leading to the elimination of discontentedness. This is what's called the Four Noble Truths. This is the first beginning teaching of the Buddha. 4 simple statements, not these, but this is kind of him pointing to it. But this is him helping you to be able to see, make an effort to understand the Four Noble Truths. Because the Four Noble Truths is the very first beginning teaching of the Buddha. If you were going to take a hike on a hiking trail, there's usually a trail marker at the beginning of the trail that kind of explains to you what you're going to encounter along this hiking trail. And the Four Noble Truths is essentially that. It's like the posted sign at the beginning of the hiking trail that's going to give you an indication of what you're going to experience along the journey on the path to enlightenment. And that's the beginning of the path to enlightenment. This is a teaching that I'm going to be sharing tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. here at the temple. So if you guys are interested in understanding the path to enlightenment, or even just remotely understanding what the teachings of the Buddha are, that would be a great class for you to be able to take, because in 4 simple statements, you're going to be able to independently verify what's causing these feelings in your mind and understand the path forward of how to actually eliminate them. You'll need deeper training beyond those Four Noble Truths, but it's going to help you at least get started with that. So the Buddha is helping to remind his students, hey, don't let this life go to waste. It's very rare that a Buddha rises in the world, and it's very rare for you to get into this human state. And it's very rare for these teachings to be shining in the world. So now is your time to be able to make your way to enlightenment. And we might even say that these conditions could potentially be true now, that the teachings are shining in the world in a way that you can get access to them and really make your way towards this enlightened mental state. Because now we're at a point where the teachings have been translated into languages that people can actually understand. We have this international language of English, that now the teachings are in this language, that now you can make your way towards enlightenment. There's no reason why you can't. The only thing holding you back is your own dedication and diligence, that everything is available for you at no cost. There's ability for you to be able to learn and grow and develop, but you need to just decide that you're ready to move past the stress and anxiety, the guilt and the shame and fear and all those other discontent feelings. So do you guys have any questions on this chapter here? Okay, I don't see any questions online either. So what I'm going to do is end class by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn and grow and develop on the path. As you've heard me share, there's multiple programs for you here to benefit you in growing and developing on the path. Tomorrow, as I've mentioned a few times, it's a great time for people to join at 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. We also have meditation in the main hall at 6:30. If you guys would like to come, I'm going to be teaching loving kindness meditation, I think it is, this Sunday, where I'm going to be guiding you in a loving kindness meditation session, which is helping you eliminate anger, hatred, and ill will, and all those lesser versions. And then I'll be just kind of sharing a little bit of the teachings of the Buddha, and then opening up to any questions that you guys might have. That's going to be at 6:30 in the main hall tomorrow. And that syncs up with the walking market. If you're coming for shopping, maybe you'd like to stop by and do some meditation with the community. And then next week on Wednesday, here in the classroom, I'm also going to be guiding students in a meditation, sharing a little bit of his teachings, and then opening up the questions then as well. There's a retreat that is starting next Sunday, not tomorrow, but next Sunday. It's called Developing a Life Practice to Attain the First Stage of Enlightenment. In a program of about 5.5 days, I'm going to be sharing everything that you need to be able to get to the first stage of enlightenment. So if you'd like to attend either part of that or all of that, it starts on Sunday at 3 p.m. here in the classroom, where I'm going to be starting this 5-day retreat, 5.5-day retreat, where I'm going to be teaching at 9 a.m. in the morning until 12:30. And then we're going to have excursions where we go outside. We're going to be visiting a elephant sanctuary, a children's orphanage. We're going to go to a national park. We're going to go to kind of like a hot springs and kind of relax and things like this. And then we're going to come back each day from 6:30 to 8:30, and I'm going to teach some more in the evening. So if you guys would like to participate in this retreat, you're more than welcome, as long as you're here on next Sunday, not this Sunday, but next Sunday at 3 p.m. I'm going to be teaching from there. And you guys can attend all of that or a portion of that. It's really up to you. And it's going to be live streamed as well if you're not going to be in Chiang Mai. So whatever you guys choose to do today, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Perhaps we'll see you next time. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.